If you've ever felt drained by opinions, distractions, and constant noise around you, this message is for you. Because today, we're solving the problem that keeps most people stuck: how to focus on yourself, stay silent, and build unstoppable power in 2025. It is not weakness. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, where every voice is fighting to be heard, the one who chooses silence is the one who holds the highest ground. Think about it. Every second of your life is surrounded by noise. Opinions on social media, arguments in your family, gossip in your workplace, distractions everywhere. Everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to prove a point. But almost no one is willing to stay quiet and simply watch. Steve Jobs once said that innovation comes from saying no to 1,000 things. But what he meant was that power comes from focus, and focus comes from silence. Because when you are silent, you are not reacting. You are not defending. You are not giving away your energy to meaningless battles. Instead, you are conserving that energy, channeling it into something much greater: your vision, your goals, your mission. Most people confuse silence with being passive, but silence is the exact opposite of weakness. Silence is an active decision. It's saying, I do not need to prove myself with words. I will prove myself with results. When Steve Jobs was working on the first iPhone, he didn't tell the world what he was building. He stayed silent. He worked in the shadows. And when the time came, he revealed a product that changed human history. That's the kind of power silence gives you. The ability to shock the world without warning. When you stay silent, people start to wonder what you're thinking. They start to question what you're working on. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It makes them curious. And that curiosity gives you leverage. Because the less you speak, the more your words matter when you finally decide to open your mouth. Silence turns your presence into mystery. And mystery is a magnet for attention. But here's the real reason silence is power. It keeps you in control. When you react emotionally to every comment, every insult, every piece of negativity, you lose. You give away your power to people who don't deserve it. But when you choose silence, you remain untouchable. You are no longer playing their game. You are playing your own. And in 2025, when the entire world is addicted to noise, silence will be the rarest and most valuable skill of all. Think about it. The people who talk too much often expose their weaknesses. They reveal their insecurities. They make promises they cannot keep. They argue about things that don't matter. And in the end, their words fade into the background, forgotten like the static of a broken radio. But the person who stays silent, that person becomes unpredictable, dangerous, powerful, because nobody knows their next move. Steve Jobs had an ability that most people lack: the ability to keep things inside until the right moment. He didn't waste energy proving to people that he was right. He showed them through execution. And that's the lesson you need in 2025. Stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your dreams. Stop wasting words on people who don't understand your vision. Focus on your craft. Focus on your growth. Focus on yourself. And let silence protect you while you build. Silence also sharpens your mind. When you're not talking, you're listening. And when you're listening, you're learning. The greatest leaders in history weren't the ones who spoke the most. They were the ones who observed, who paid attention, who understood the world before making their move. Silence allows you to notice what others miss. It gives you clarity in the middle of chaos. And clarity is the foundation of power. In the modern age, where everyone is obsessed with posting every detail of their lives, silence is rebellion. When everyone else is chasing likes and comments, your silence becomes discipline. You are not feeding the system of distraction. You are mastering yourself. People will wonder why you are so quiet. They will question why you don't share every thought, every plan, every move. And that's exactly the point. Your silence forces them to guess. Your silence creates distance. And that distance is where your strength grows. If you want to achieve greatness in 2025, remember this: your silence will do more for you than your words ever will. When you are silent, you are not invisible. You are invincible. Focus is currency. And in 2025, it is the most valuable currency you can own. Not dollars, not crypto, not gold. Focus. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. Everything you achieve, everything you fail at, everything you become, it all comes down to one simple question: what are you focusing on right now? Most people think they are living, but they are distracted to death. They wake up, grab their phone, and before they even take a breath of the morning air, their attention has already been stolen. News feeds, notifications, messages, gossip, each one draining a little more of their mental energy, scattering their focus into 1,000 directions. And then they wonder why they feel tired, why they feel lost, why they never make progress. It's because they've traded away their most precious currency: focus. Steve Jobs understood this better than anyone. He had an almost ruthless ability to say no. No to distractions, no to unnecessary products, no to noise. When Apple was struggling, he cut away everything that didn't matter and poured every ounce of focus into a few great products. And that focus didn't just save the company, it reshaped the future of technology. That is the power of focus. It can turn collapse into greatness. It can turn failure into history. In 2025, the world is noisier than ever. Every platform is fighting for your attention. Every app is designed to keep you scrolling. Every headline crafted to spark outrage. Every notification built to pull you away from your purpose. And if you are not intentional, if you are not disciplined, you will bleed focus like water slipping through your hands. You cannot afford that. Because focus is not just attention. It is energy. It is time. It is your life. Ask yourself this: if your focus were money, how much would you have left at the end of the day? Most people would be broke, bankrupt of attention, because they spend it on meaningless conversations, endless entertainment, and battles that don't move them forward. They pay with their focus but never invest it. And that is why they remain stuck, year after year, never building momentum, never creating breakthroughs. But the person who treats focus like currency, the person who spends it wisely, that person becomes unstoppable. Imagine waking up and directing your focus like a laser. Instead of scattering it across dozens of distractions, you channel it into one mission, one project, one vision. Day after day, hour after hour, you invest your focus into something that grows. That's how you build companies. That's how you write books. That's how you master your craft. That's how you create a life that others can only dream about. Steve Jobs had a famous saying: deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Focus is not just about choosing where to direct your energy. It's about eliminating everything else. And that is where most people fail. They want to do everything, chase everything, be everywhere. But by trying to do everything, they achieve nothing. True focus is sacrifice. True focus is discipline. True focus is saying no 1,000 times, so you can say yes to the one thing that truly matters. Think about how you're spending your focus right now. Every notification you check is a withdrawal from your mental bank account. Every meaningless argument is a debt you'll have to repay with lost energy. Every hour wasted on distractions is a bill that will come due in regret. But every hour invested in yourself, every moment you dedicate to your vision, every distraction you eliminate, that is wealth. That is currency compounding in your favor. In a noisy world, the ability to focus is like a superpower. Most people will not master it. They will remain distracted, addicted, and overwhelmed. But those who do, those who learn to guard their focus like gold, they will separate themselves from the crowd. They will achieve in 5 years what others can't in 50. Because focus doesn't just build results, it builds momentum. And once momentum is on your side, nothing can stop you. Focus is currency, and 2025 is testing you. Every distraction is a thief. Every wasted moment a robbery. If you do not protect your focus, someone else will profit from it. Because in this world, either you control your focus, or your focus controls you. The world today is obsessed with showing. Everyone wants to display their progress, announce their plans, and prove to strangers on the internet that they are doing something great. But the truth is, the loudest people are often the least dangerous. Real power is built in silence, in shadows, where nobody can see what you're creating. Steve Jobs mastered this. He never revealed everything he was working on. He didn't run around explaining his every move. Instead, he worked quietly, relentlessly, with his team behind closed doors. No distractions, no unnecessary noise, just focus on building something that the world wasn't ready for. And when the time was right, when the product was ready, he walked onto a stage and dropped a bomb that nobody could ignore. That's the power of building in shadows. When you work in silence, you protect yourself. You protect your ideas, because the moment you start talking too much, you open yourself up to opinions, criticism, jealousy, and sabotage. People love to discourage what they don't understand. They will project their fears onto your vision. They will try to convince you that your dream is impossible. And if you're not careful, their voices will sink into your mind and weaken your belief. But when you build in shadows, none of that reaches you. You create in peace. You experiment without judgment. You fail privately and rise stronger, without the weight of other people's opinions. There is also a strategy in silence. When no one knows what you're working on, you become unpredictable. Your competition can't copy you, because they don't even know what to copy. Your enemies can't block you, because they don't know what you're building. Your doubters can't mock you, because they don't know your next move. By the time they finally realize what you've been doing, it's already too late. You've already built something unstoppable. Think of how Apple launched its most iconic products. Nobody outside the company truly knew what was coming. The world was guessing, speculating, trying to piece together rumors. And then one day, Steve Jobs stepped on stage and revealed something nobody had seen before. He didn't talk about it for years in advance. He didn't leak half-finished versions for validation. He built it in the shadows, and that element of surprise is what made it legendary. In 2025, this lesson is more important than ever. Because now, everyone wants attention. People don't want to build quietly. They want to show progress every step of the way. They want validation before they even finish the work. But that hunger for recognition is what kills most dreams. When you seek approval too early, you weaken your fire. When you brag about your plans, you invite distractions and pressure that drain your energy. Building in shadows requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires the humility to delay recognition until your work speaks for itself. The truth is, shadows are your sanctuary. That's where you refine your skills. That's where you make mistakes. That's where you bleed, sweat, and sacrifice without anyone watching. People see the success, but they don't see the years in the shadows. They see the launch, but they don't see the countless nights of doubt, failure, and rebuilding. And that's exactly how it should be. Your struggles are not for public entertainment. They are for your growth. When you build in shadows, your results become your voice. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. The product, the project, the transformation, it speaks louder than your words ever could. That's why silence is so powerful. Words are easy. Results are undeniable. There's another layer to this. Building in shadows doesn't just protect you from external noise. It protects you from your ego. Because when you talk too much about your plans, your brain tricks you into feeling like you've already achieved them. You get a false sense of accomplishment, and your drive weakens. But when you stay silent, when you hold everything inside, that hunger builds, that pressure builds, that fire grows, and you channel it all into your work until it becomes something real. Steve Jobs once said, "Real artists ship." That means true creators don't just talk, they finish, they deliver. They release something tangible, and the only way to do that is to stay focused long enough to reach the finish line. You don't get there by wasting time explaining yourself. You get there by disappearing into the shadows and working until the vision is complete. In 2025, building in shadows is your competitive edge, while everyone else is broadcasting their half-finished ideas. You'll be quietly refining yours. While they're chasing attention, you'll be building substance. And when they're still talking, you'll be showing results they can't ignore. Everyone wants to conquer the world. Everyone wants recognition, wealth, and influence. But very few people realize the truth. You cannot win externally until you win internally. The greatest battles are not fought in boardrooms, stadiums, or battlefields. They are fought in your mind every single day. Before you master business, before you master relationships, before you master leadership, you must first master yourself. Steve Jobs was not perfect. He had flaws like every human being. But one thing he understood deeply was discipline. He knew that vision without self-control is just a dream. He knew that ambition without discipline collapses under its weight. And he knew that the first step to shaping the world was shaping his habits, his energy, his mind. Self-mastery means taking full responsibility for who you are. It means owning your weaknesses and sharpening your strengths. It means refusing to let emotions control you, distractions consume you, or laziness define you. Most people want shortcuts. They want external victories without inner victories. They want success without discipline, growth without sacrifice, glory without pain. But the universe doesn't work like that. If you cannot control yourself, you will never control anything outside of you. Think about this. How many times have you set a goal, but failed to follow through? How many times have you promised yourself a change, but slipped back into the same patterns? That gap between what you say and what you do is the measure of your self-mastery. The bigger the gap, the weaker your foundation. And without a strong foundation, any victory you build will eventually crumble. Self-mastery begins with the smallest choices. Waking up on time when your body wants to sleep. Saying no to distractions when your mind craves comfort. Working on your craft when nobody is watching, when there is no applause, when it feels like progress is invisible. These small moments, repeated day after day, forge the discipline that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Steve Jobs demanded excellence from his team because he demanded excellence from himself first. He had a reputation for being relentless, for pushing beyond limits, for refusing mediocrity. That intensity came from self-mastery. He didn't settle for good enough, not in his products, not in his work, not in his vision. And that mindset transformed Apple from near bankruptcy into the most valuable company in the world. But it all began with mastering his standards before expecting the world to meet them. In 2025, this principle matters more than ever. Distractions are everywhere. Temptations are constant. Comfort is easier to find than discipline. And yet, the very things that make people weak are the same things that allow you to become strong. While others are ruled by their emotions, you can master yours. While others are consumed by entertainment, you can stay focused on growth. while others live reactively. You can live intentionally. That is the edge self-mastery gives you. But self-mastery is not just about discipline. It's about emotional control. It's about staying calm when chaos surrounds you. It's about not letting anger dictate your choices or fear paralyze your progress. Most people lose not because they lack talent, but because they let emotions sabotage their decisions. Imagine how much stronger you would be if you could remain steady in storms, unshaken by negativity, unaffected by criticism. That kind of control makes you untouchable. And then there is mastery of energy. If you waste your energy on gossip, arguments, and meaningless distractions, you'll have nothing left for your mission. But if you protect your energy, if you channel it into your vision, you become unstoppable. Steve Jobs didn't spread himself thin chasing 10,000 opportunities. He concentrated his energy on a few bold ideas, and that intensity changed the world. Your energy is limited. Where you place it decides everything. Self-mastery also means knowing yourself deeply. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, your patterns. Too many people go through life without understanding who they are. They chase victories without ever addressing their flaws, and eventually those flaws sabotage everything they build. But when you confront yourself, when you face your inner battles, when you strip away your illusions, you build strength that no failure can destroy. The truth is simple. External victories are temporary if they are not built on internal mastery. You can win money, fame, and status, but if you don't control yourself, you will lose it all. History is filled with people who conquered nations, but couldn't conquer themselves. Leaders who built empires but collapsed under their weaknesses. Success without self-mastery is a ticking time bomb. But when you master yourself first, everything changes. Victories built on self-discipline last. Success grounded in self-control endures. Influence rooted in inner strength multiplies. The external world becomes a reflection of the internal world you have already mastered. That is why the darkest power lesson of all is this: before you conquer anything outside, you must first conquer what's inside. The world in 2025 is louder, faster, and more distracting than ever before. People are shouting over each other, chasing attention, chasing validation, chasing everything except what matters. But the truth is simple: the path to power hasn't changed. It never has. Silence will always be stronger than noise. Focus will always be rarer than distraction. Building in shadows will always outlast showing off too soon. And self-mastery will always come before external victory. These are not just lessons, they are laws. Laws of power, laws of growth, laws of greatness. Most people will ignore them. They will keep talking instead of listening. They will keep scattering instead of focusing. They will keep chasing applause instead of building in silence. They will keep trying to conquer the world before conquering themselves. And they will fail, but a few will understand. A few will step back from the noise, guard their focus like gold, build in the shadows with relentless discipline, and master themselves before chasing anything outside. And when the time comes, their results will speak with a voice louder than any words ever could. So the choice is yours. You can waste 2025 chasing noise, or you can transform 2025 by mastering silence, focus, shadows, and yourself. One path makes you forgettable. The other makes you unstoppable.